Beyond Survival is the official podcast of Waymaker Institute. Our desire is to equip you as a follower of Jesus to thrive. Each episode reveals how the gospel impacts the entire human experience for the advancement of God's kingdom. Ultimately, Jesus' promise of abundant life means we are meant to go beyond survival. So, let's jump in with today's episode.
Hey, welcome to the Beyond Survival podcast, and it's the official podcast of Waymaker Institute. What do you think about Waymaker Institute?
I think it's pretty great.
Pretty great. Thank you. Great endorsement.
Was that enough?
No, that was perfect.
Okay.
That was perfect. But honestly, we love doing this podcast because we get to meet a lot of different people, and ultimately we want this podcast to help you understand, what it means to have an abundant life in Jesus. And the reality is everyone listening to this is in a different part of their journey with Jesus, or maybe haven't even started a relationship with Jesus. But I'm really excited about our special guest. He just got into town. Just flew into town. And not only that, but after the recording of this podcast, you're going to preach. And so there's probably a lot going on in your mind and heart. And so I am honored to have Naeem Fazal here. And we're gonna dive in because you've got an incredible story and a lot to share. And so I guess let's just start off with Naeem. You are Pakistani, but from Kuwait.
Yes, you've done your research.
How does that work?
How did that work?
Yes.
How do Pakistanis work?
Yes. No.
So my parents are Pakistani.
Okay.
Born, raised Pakistanis, and they migrated to Kuwait.
Okay.
So a crazy story is my dad he was like 16 or so, faked his paperwork, got on a boat kind of thing, ended up wanting to go to the Middle East because back in those days, and even now, the Middle East is like the place to be when you want to make money. And so he moved there and then got married and then moved us over there, and so I was born and raised there.
Okay.
So when people say where you from, I'm like, well, I'm from Kuwait.
Yeah.
But I'm not Kuwaiti because again, Middle East, they don't give citizenship.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like in the Western world or the U.S. where you're given citizenship because you were born here. And that's not so. Yeah. So that's how it works, my friend.
Yeah. Now, your family of origin, like the faith was Muslim, correct?
Yes.
And so, what did that look like? Was that was your family like devout, and did you practice that growing up? What did that look like?
Yeah. So I grew up Sunni Muslim.
Okay.
If you know the difference, there's Shia and Sunni, and I've got 2 brothers and 2 sisters. So pretty traditional in terms of our heritage in the size of family and things like that.
Okay.
But my mom and dad, there are three boys on one side, 3 girls on the other side, born in city, so they got married. Yeah. So that's traditional too. So my point is that we grew up in a very traditional faith when it comes to even Islam. And so we practice a very traditional faith. Conservative, I would say, as well, because my sisters covered up. And if you know anything about Islam, the women cover everything. And it wasn't, it was Pakistani Islam, which is a little different from Kuwaiti Islam, which means that they do allow some concessions in terms of culture and tradition, and so Pakistani dress is not what you see the Middle East, where they're all covered in black, and they got the hijabs. It's a little different than that. So pretty traditional Muslim. Mom was more religious than dad. It seems to be the trend everywhere.
Yeah, that's so true.
And then, grew up practicing Ramadan.
Wow.
Going to Friday prayers, the mosque, all that stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
So just, from both of us growing up in America, what would you say? So how long have you actually been in America?
Oh man, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while now. So I got here when I was I think 18 or 19.
Okay. So then what is maybe Americans' biggest like misperception of like the Middle East or the Muslim faith? Like what is something that you see that we think of or see that because you grew up there, like it's not actually different. That's kind of off, you know?
Yeah. You know, I would say that before the rise of social media, I think people were pretty ignorant of what another world, especially Islam and Muslim countries, population looks like and feels like. But now I think people are becoming more aware of it. But I think what's easy to sometimes forget is that I know it's so simple to say, but not all Muslims are the same. You know, they're not, you know, so, and it's very different compared to where you are. So in Pakistan, Islam and Muslims there practice a very unique, very traditional kind of Islam versus, say, Dubai, you know, or Saudi Arabia is extremely different. And so I think the misconception sometimes is that people just kind of go, well, you all believe this, right? Or you all think this,
lumping
right?
everybody in.
Yeah, you lump it all in, and you're like, that's not, not necessarily true. And some cultures and countries are really shape Islam for their people.
I mean, that makes sense then, because if you think about like even like the Christian faith and like churches in the Northeast versus the West versus the South even, and you can't say that, oh yeah, it looks the same. Yeah, and they all, you know, the same style of worship or same. Right. It's like, no, it's actually very, very different.
Very different.
So, all right, where do we go next? What do you want to know?
Yeah, I would love to hear just that moment of transformation when you either came to the States, or did you find Jesus before you left?
Okay. So like I said, I have two brothers, two sisters. So my older brother in the late 80s got accepted to a college from Kuwait. Now the significance of that is that we were immigrants in Kuwait. Like I said, we were born and raised there, but you don't get citizenship, so you're immigrants. So I grew up as an immigrant in Kuwait. And then, surprisingly enough, so my native language is Urdu, which is Pakistani. So and then my parents had a great idea to put us all in an Indian school. So I speak Hindi, but then the curriculum was in English. But the society that every day, all around us, everybody spoke Arabic. So that's
4 languages?
Yeah, it's 4 languages, yeah.
Yeah.
But what's funny, though, is but my mom and dad were from a certain part of Pakistan called, and we're called Punjabis, which is another Punjabi. So I speak Punjabi as well. So it was kind of like a lot of languages. And I think my brother, he's the smarter guy, so I think he mastered most of them. I just kind of winged most of them. And so based on just his intellect and his ability to just master a lot of things, he applied to a college in the U.S. So he just applied and tried to see if he could get in. And I was trying just to pass the 5th grade. I mean, I had to repeat that twice.
But you still knew 4 languages.
Yeah, but
Pretty
then I got kicked out. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a mess. So, but he got accepted to a college, and we were super excited. It was kind of surprising that he did. But the college was called it was in Spartanburg, South Carolina. People know. Yeah. And it was called Spartanburg Methodist University. It was like a 2-year deal, and then you transfer over, whatever. And we were so excited, but we had no idea what Methodist meant.
Yeah. You just thought it was part of the name of the school.
Yeah. We just thought, hey, this is cool. Yeah. And so he comes here, and he he comes to faith. Like, I mean, I can get into the story, but he's an intellect, and so he just kind of, and then I think he has a dream, and then friends, and he's involved with certain I think it's called BSU. Baptist Student Union or something like that.
Okay.
Anyways, I mean, the college is like Methodist University, so it's like, so yeah, he comes back the one summer or the next summer, and he tells me and my two sisters, my younger brother was pretty young, he goes, "Hey, I'm a Christian now, and I'm a born again." And he told me he was a born again believer. He believed in Jesus, and now he was no longer a Muslim. And he's like, "I want to tell mom and dad," and he was so passionate about it.
And how old were you at this time?
Oh shoot, I don't know. I was say 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I threatened to kill him. So I got
kidding.
no. I grabbed his neck and got violent and put him against the wall and cussed him out, and I got so infuriated, and it was so intense that he got freaked out. My sisters got freaked out. I got freaked out. You know, sometimes you do stuff and you're like, "What? Where did that come from?" And he didn't tell mom and dad. He was like, "Okay, I'm not telling anybody."
Yeah.
And I was like, I threatened to kill him. It was that bad. So that was the first time I heard of Jesus. Back to your question.
Wow.
So, so he didn't say anything, and then he left, and he just kind of pretended everything was cool. And then 1990, Iraq. If some of you guys remember, if you don't, Iraq invaded Kuwait. So we were in Kuwait. So so we got stuck in the war there.
And what was that like?
Oh, it was all kinds of. I mean, that's why I had to write a whole book about all kinds of stories.
Okay, so we got to read it.
Yeah, so I mean, you wake up to a war, and you wake up to a country already occupied, and I thought it was a joke, but it happened, so quickly. Kuwait is small; they were very strategic.
Yep.
So yeah, they just took over, and then we were there through occupation, liberation, the whole thing. We never left. So we went from like first day to last day, where oil fields were set on ablaze, no food. We were starved. I mean, bombs exploding, all that kind of stuff. So then, after that, all that kind of settled down, my dad was like, "Okay, so what do you want to do now?" Because Kuwait was rebuilding. I was, I guess 18, 19, and my dad was like, "Do you want to start working? What do you want to do?" Because I didn't graduate from high school. I didn't do high school, and I was like, "I don't know." And my dad was like, "I mean, or you could try to see if you could get into the U.S." And he was like, "I could get you a tourist visa to go see your brother, and you figure out if you can get in college." And I was like, "There's no way I'm getting in college. I can't barely, But I was like, "Okay, I'm going to do it. Let's do it." And so here's the real truth of it. My dad was like, he's like, "Don't come back."
Wow.
He was like,
"That's amazing."
Yeah, don't come back. So I was like, okay. So yeah, at 18, I packed my stuff and got a tourist visa, came here to the States. And my last thing was that I was like, "Don't come back." So, I mean, honestly, it was going to be like, figure it out, but, like I said, don't come back. So, yeah, so I get to the States, and I know my brother is like this Jesus freak now, and mom and dad don't know. I know, and then, I flew into Miami. I had a cousin there, and then that was a crazy story. Got on a Greyhound bus to go from Miami, Florida, all the way to. He had moved to Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
This is another crazy story. It's a 17-hour ride. By the way. I don't know if you know.
That's
this.
a long ways.
It's
I'm
a
sure
long
it
way.
was.
And I had
in a
no
bus.
idea. Again, Kuwait, you can drive around it in like an hour and a half.
Wow.
So I was like, "Where are we going?"
Yeah. You're in this new country. You're 17 hours on the bus.
Oh my gosh! And then the bus left me in the middle of the trip. Again, another story in the book, but ridiculous. Finally got to Charleston, and then I keep on going, guys, but like pretty much he invited me to FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I was really not interested. And he was like, "Hey, there's cute girls there. You don't know anybody."
That's always the
There you
catch.
go.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like, "All right, I'm in." And so I started attending just for the heck of it. And I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do because I've got like 3 weeks and then I'm going to be illegal, or a month or something. But my goal was I was going to extend it. I was going to extend my visa. So yeah, I go to FCA and I hear about Jesus. I hear about Jesus, which I'm not interested. But I hear about the gospel. I hear about a God who pursues humanity versus the gods, or a God who demands humanity to make themselves worthy. And so, anyways, I began having conversations with all his people were all Christians, and I'm staying downtown Charleston, an apartment with him, my brother, and another friend, and the college campus is right, a couple minutes away, so we're just college life, and it was happening really quick. But all from the day one, my brother was like, if you just ask Jesus to reveal himself, like show himself, he'll do it.
Wow.
I was like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
Like, and so I just kept on mocking him for weeks, and he was just like, he wouldn't even, he would just go, no, he'll like show up. I'm like, what are you saying? Like, I'd never read the Bible, never read anything, just went to FCA. That was my only thing. And so one night at FCA, I was like, you know what? I mean, it wasn't even a prayer. I mean, it was like, hey, so you know what? If you're real, show me.
Yeah.
And 3 nights later, guys, everything changed. 3 nights later, want me to get into that?
Yes,
Let's go.
please.
Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, let's just stop there.
We're done. Okay. And now for a commercial break.
To be continued.
3 nights later, and I didn't even know it was 3 nights. It was like one of those, I'm like, whatever. And it happened to be Halloween night. Again, something I did not realize till, because we don't celebrate Halloween really, or back in Kuwait back then, and I didn't know anything. So, yeah, I've got a room, and I'm in my room and in my bed, about to fall asleep, and I was reading something, put it down, and I'm about to shut off the light, and all that, and I just noticed the room is just has turned evil. Like, I'm like, what's going on? Like, my body is reacting to something, and that I can't really physically see. And then I'm like, what's going on? What's going on with my inside of me? And then I look around, and I feel like the room is moving. Like, there's things in the room. And I'm like, what is going on? So I'm like super confused, but I'm like super like scared. But I'm like, the lights are on? Yeah. What's going on? I'm not asleep. As I'm processing that or trying to figure it out, something grabs my shoulders and then drags me and pins me on my pillow. And I'm like I'm trying to figure out, like, who's in the room, because there's a wall behind me. And so I try to struggle out of it, and something just basically paralyzes me, sits on my my legs, and now I'm seeing all kinds of crazy, it's like death, evil, darkness. I'm like, what's going on? So I just start yelling, screaming out, because my brother's in the other room, like in the hallway or whatever, or other part of the house and apartment. And the door opens up finally, and in walks this demon. And guys, I grew up Muslim, so we're not even into demons. Like, we got these things called jinns, but that's about it. I'm like, dude, like, wrong room. Like, this is not. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's what is this?
Yeah.
But something inside of me knows what it is.
Like, you knew it was darkness.
Oh yeah. Very clearly.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a gargoyle-looking figure I was like, so huge, and then it began communicating, and I could hear him clearly, and he was like, "I'm gonna kill you. You're gonna die tonight." And I'm like, "What?" And I joke about it because I'm like, at that point I didn't know. I was like, is this happening? So you can just imagine, like, it's like normal day, normal night, and all of a sudden this. So I'm like, and instantly I was like, oh, I know who this is. I thought, this is Jesus. This is Jesus. He's mad.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So because I called him all kinds of things.
Yeah.
The last thing I did was, you show me, you prove it to me, buddy. And I was like, oh, he's scaring the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Like, this is what he's going to do. So I just opened up a doorway or a portal or whatever you want to call it, or something. And then I was like, no, this can't be Jesus. Then I'm thinking, no, this is probably Allah. Because, you're not supposed to doubt in Islam. And I was going to FCA.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, what am I doing? So, and then it got closer. I was like, this isn't any of those. Like, I don't know what this. So I'm like, you know, praying to every god out there, right?
Just go through the list.
I'm just like Allah, Buddha, Oprah, you know, whatever. You know?
Yeah, Oprah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's up there.
Right. Yeah. Kanye's next.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I'm like, what? Like someone, and this thing comes closer, and I'm like, and for a minute, I'm like, Jesus, like, I don't know if my soul spirit reaches out to Jesus. I don't know exactly. I kind of feel in moments of that, like there was something stopped it. So whatever it stopped, that it let go, disappeared. I'm stunned on my bed going, you know, blankly blank. What just happened?
Yeah.
So I run out of the room, wake up my brother. I go, what'd you do? Did you put something in my drink? And he's like, what are you talking about? And so I tell him what happened. He's like, are you a dream? I'm like, I haven't even fallen asleep.
Yeah.
I'm not even. And he was like, oh, okay. I said, I'm losing my mind, right? Like, what's happening? And he was like, well, this stuff is true. I was like, what? And he's like, well, it's in the Bible. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Did you just say it's in the Bible? I said, so I'd never read the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament. I just knew how it got connected, like Old Testament stuff.
Yeah.
But all the New Testament stories of Jesus, no clue.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh yeah, Jesus interacted with demons. I'm like, what do you? I thought he was lying.
Yeah.
And I thought he was like. So, anyways, he starts talking about Jesus, spiritual warfare, all the stuff. This is real. I'm freaked out. And finally, you know, like, I just say, hey, listen, just stop. Like, I can't even make sense of, you know, he's talking about forgiveness of sins and repentance and, you know, the whole Romans road and the whole thing. I'm like, what? I don't know anything. What are you saying? So, like, what, I just need help, man.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind, I was like, what? You know, I was convinced there was something out to kill me. And I was introduced to a darkness I did not know existed.
Yeah.
And so he was like, he said, well, there's only one person I know who has authority over demons and angels. And I was like, who? And he was like, Jesus. And I was like, all right, man, let's do this. And he was like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. What do you do, you know? And he was like, you want to pray? I'm like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do it. So, and he, you know, he tells me how, you know, he leads me, he wants to lead me in a salvation prayer, but I just told him, before he prayed for me and told me to, or asked me to repeat after him, I said, I'm going to pray something. I want to say something. Because, you know, in Islam, you know, you don't pray in your own language. You pray in a particular language, and it's particular passages. You don't just speak.
Yeah.
It's in Arabic, but you don't speak in Arabic. That's not your prayers. Your prayers are recited. So I prayed. I said, Jesus, I don't know who you are, so I can't say you're like the Lord of my life. I don't know anything about you, so I can't say I love you or any of those things. But if you'll save me from this, I'll give you my whole life. And then he prayed for me, and then amen. And he was like, all right, man. And, you know, he was like grinning, and he was so excited, right? And I was like so scared. I was like still like, all right, now what? And he's like, all right, man, I'll see you in the morning. And I was like, well,
good night.
I was like, well,
Are you sleeping with me?
Right. He was like, go back in that room. I was like, oh, I'm not going back in the room. And we literally had an argument about it. And I was like, you gotta be out of your mind. Like, I am not going back in that room.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, like, and I make jokes about it, but finally he gave me a Bible. He's like, I got you. He gives me a Bible. And guys, the Bible he gave me, again, this is the first time I'm holding a Bible. He gives me a Bible that's smaller than my iPhone. He gives me like the New Testament Gideon
Bible. Oh, absolutely. I knew that.
To go.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, is this for hobbits? Like, what is this? Like,
I couldn't read it.
And he's like,
my glasses.
He's like, just read John, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I was like, can you give me something bigger to throw at a demon? You know what I'm saying? Like, like, you, what are you doing here to me? Like, and he was like, no, you go. I'm like, dude, why can't I just sleep with you? And he was like, no, you got to go back. I'm like, you go back in the room, you know? And he was like, no, you just met Jesus. And I'm like, I don't even know his last name, kind of thing. Like, you go back. And so anyways, I go back, turn on all the lights, like all the lights. And I'm sitting there with my Bible, or not my Bible, just this thing, Bible, and reading John. And you know when you're spooked? You're like, everything makes a sound.
Yes.
Yeah, you're like, look around.
Everything. Everything.
Yeah.
And it was like an old Charleston house. So it's already creepy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh God. Who's breathing? And I'm like, oh, it's me. Like, it's like freaking out.
Yeah.
And I do that for about an hour. And man, I got all kinds of thoughts. Like, it had been literally 3 weeks. And I'm like, I just went through a war. I've been here for 3 weeks. The dang Greyhound bus left me.
Yeah.
I have now demon problems.
Yeah.
And I remember going, whoever, and I'm like, what did I just do? I said, I'm a Muslim. I'm a Muslim. So what am I doing? Like, and I'm like, whoever you are up there, God, whatever, just leave me alone. Like, that'd be great. Just everybody just leave me alone. That'd be just all that. So I just got frustrated, then got mad. And I put the Bible down. I went and shut off all the lights, went back in my bed, and I was just so enraged. You know, like, I think that's one way of coping with, like, fear. You just get angry.
Yeah.
Actually, people do that a lot. But, and I just looked up, and my second prayer was to Jesus, Jesus, if I die tonight, it is all your fault. Like, that is
nice.
It was this dumbest prayer. Yeah. But I was like, I don't even know what prayer is. I just said that. I don't know why I said that. Put the covers on my head. I'm done. I didn't want to see anything. I didn't want to be nailed down. So I was like, got into like a fetal position, and I was like, I'm just doing this. And it was all good for a little bit, and then something was trying to wake me up. Like, something literally was trying to move me. And I was like, maybe it's my brother. Maybe it's something else. And in my head, I was like, okay, whatever happens next, just don't open your eyes. Because you don't want to see anything. You don't want to see anything. In my head, I was thinking, they can't make you open your eyes. Yes. Just don't do that.
That's crazy.
And, the next second, I found myself sitting on my bed with my eyes open. And there he was. And he said, I am Jesus. And your life is not your own. And guys, I have never felt peace so aggressive. Like, he is intoxicating. And I couldn't, like, it's so funny because I was looking at him, but I was inside of him.
Yeah.
And I remember just like looking and then looking around and like, I'm inside of you. Like, it was the trippiest, craziest. It was like another dimension. It was like, and instantly I just knew things. I knew like, in this body I could not be here. Like, I couldn't, like, this body could not take this experience. So I was fading already. I was like, oh, I'm going. Oh, I'm about to be getting unconscious. And it was just, like, I couldn't keep my eyes off of him. Couldn't keep my eyes open. And he's like, I'm Jesus. And your life is not your own. And next thing I know, it was morning. I had gotten this download. I went to my brother and I was like, hey, so I was going to be an art major. That was my, like, I was going to pursue art. And I said, hey, I'm supposed to be in ministry.
Wow.
I don't even know what that means.
Wow.
And then that led to, like, it was hardcore. Then I was like, okay. Like, so when I came, I didn't only receive forgiveness. When I came to Jesus, I received purpose.
Yeah.
Like, and I was, because like when I came to Jesus, I wasn't really honestly looking for forgiveness. Like, I was like, I'm good, yo.
Right.
And so, and then I knew. So, then, and the craziest thing after that is that, a week later, I started reading scripture, and then I just jumped into all the things. Then found out about denominations, theology.
A lot more.
Some people don't even believe this stuff. Some people were like looking at me going like, yeah, but did you come to Jesus? I was like,
I think so.
I'm right.
I saw him.
So then I got a whole like, well, did you pray the prayer there? I was like, yeah, you're supposed to do that? I didn't know, guys. I didn't know what's supposed. They're like, did you go to the altar? I'm like, what altar?
Oh,
like
my goodness.
all of
That's
this
crazy.
stuff. So I was like, so that's why when it comes to Jesus, that's the reason why people fall away from Christianity or their belief in Jesus. People say, I've fallen away. I don't believe anymore. Yeah, because it's a belief. Because you can always stop believing something, but you can't unmeet someone.
Right.
Wow.
So when you meet Jesus, it's very hard to walk away.
Right.
When you truly meet him.
And you use the word intoxicated, which
Right.
moved me.
Yeah. So, then, I just knew I couldn't date for 3 years. So I read from that week on, I was like, I'm not dating for 3 years. I can't do it. I can't be in any other relationship. So I just went like a Paul the Apostle.
There you go.
I didn't even know Paul the Apostle.
Yeah.
I was like, hold up. I remember the first time reading the story. I'm like, hold up. This guy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man, so you have this encounter with Jesus and you meet him, as you say. So if we fast forward, because I know there's a lot there, but you end up at Seacoast Church, which has a special meaning for our church and specifically for Pastor John and Tammy. Seacoast Church played a really critical time in their life to bring revitalization, healing.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool, the
awesome.
intersection of those things, and then you end up at the Mosaic Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. You planted the church, and so I want to know, how does the way in which you met Jesus and had that encounter, how does that affect the way that you pastor a church?
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I think what happened after I came to faith is that my 2 brothers, 2 sisters also came to faith, and I was able to lead or be part of leading my 2 sisters directly, and they were both supernatural. They were not they were very, very supernatural. And then found myself in the middle of just some stuff and doing a ministry, or not, I didn't call it ministry. I didn't know what it was. I found myself trying to find a church that would kind of, I could say home, I could say this is home.
Yeah.
And it was unique, because of my background, so I have been an immigrant everywhere. So even here, I'm a citizen now, but I was an immigrant, And in fact, I had gotten religious asylum to come to stay in the U.S. after my conversion, which I had to prove that I was a Christian.
Wow.
And with a story like that, no one was going to believe that.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
But it happened, and all that to say is that at Seacoast, I started. I was an intern there, and then oversaw several ministries, mostly next gen. So it was at one point it was all the way from, middle school to young adults or young marrieds, and then doing a couple campuses with them and for them, being on the teaching team and all of those things. And while I was doing that, I realized that my background had a lot to do with. My past had a lot to do with what God wanted to create in the future. And so the great thing about Seacoast is just that it's, the leadership there, and Greg Surratt, and he's like my spiritual dad and all that, but their environment was very much for the outsider. That's why I felt like an insider, even though I was an outsider. And I really felt that God was calling me to reach a more diverse people group. And I knew that if that was going to happen, I had to leave Charleston. And so, Ash, my wife, and I met in college, and she was pregnant with our first when we were talking about what we would do. And I just I had a vision one night. I was leading and speaking at a weekly young adults thing that I had started, and it just grew to be a citywide thing, and it was the most diverse gathering of young Christians or even non-believers in the city. And I just saw for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many different nationalities here. Yeah. And our church wasn't. And I just felt like God said, you got to do that. So I didn't know what that meant. And so I had several conversations, and then actually a pastor named Erwin McManus. I met him, and then we kind of hit it off, and then we started just talking, and he was the one who's like, hey, why don't you go start a church? And I was like, are you crazy? Like a church, like me start a church? Like who's going to come to a church? Like I'm a Pakistani, I'm all my stuff. And he's like, yeah, you could do it. And he said, based on what you want to call, I guess it's a mosaic of people and things like that. So yeah, then we started Mosaic. I mean, it was out there because even now, I don't know anyone who is a immigrant, ex-Muslim, that started a church that is going after diversity. So yeah, man. So it's a beautiful thing. I mean, we when we started Mosaic, we wanted to have like a very good reason of why we actually existed. Like, because there's so many churches there's so many different kinds of churches, and there should be. But we just need to know like what part of the wall, in a sense, going back to Nehemiah, what part of the wall are we building? Like, what is our deal? And I just felt like God was saying that we need to reclaim the message and the movement of Jesus. And so, like, really going after what does it look like to rediscover for a lot of people, or reintroduce people to the message of Jesus, where honestly it has to be reclaimed, like reclaimed wood. Something gets painted over again and again. You strip it down and you go, okay, this is what the message was really about. And then this is what the movement actually looks like, which is church. And so, I have an appreciation for denominations and doctrine, but I think sometimes, honestly, it just really does get in the way, especially for internationals that don't really understand.
Great perspective.
Yeah.
Really so what would you say is the most challenging part of leading a diverse church?
Oh man, for me, it's actually literally it's me. Here's a couple of reasons why. Because on any given Sunday, I'm the minority. Every Sunday, I'm the minority at my own church. So there are no Pakistanis by the droves, because Pakistanis is generally Muslim. And ex-Muslims don't want to hang out with an ex-Muslim. Like, I'm already the enemy, So it is challenging because statistically, they say that about 20 to 29% of churches in the U.S., being mainline versus Catholic, are diverse. Catholic churches are actually more diverse than mainline churches, and even evangelical churches for some reason. But 3% of those diverse churches, 3%, are led by minorities. So a minority would be a black, white, Hispanic, not white, but black, Hispanic, or Asian, would be 3% would be leading a diverse church. I mean, there are definitely a lot of other black pastors and black churches that lead black churches. But diverse church is only 3%. Wow. The problem is what sociologists call me is I'm a super minority. A super minority is a minority that Americans have a very hard time calling them Americans ever. So Arab Muslims, or is a modern term. It was like, if you're Arab or you're Pakistani, you're never an American. We've got Hispanics, we got blacks. Wow. That's about it. Asians maybe, but then you got that Does that make sense? So they've done this research, and there are some, obviously there are some Indians that are they're either born here that start churches, or they don't start churches, they're actually mainline churches. So I'm like 0.1%. Like, there's like none. So that's a challenge, because when you do it in the South and you have a background, you think it's a joke, but like at newcomers, like dinner or lunch or whatever, I got to convince people, or I just got to mention that I'm not a terrorist.
Wow.
Like I'm not a sleeper.
Wow.
It is the crazy. So I got stories of people
Wow.
who are like, oh yeah, I didn't.
So there's like a trust gap
there is
immediately,
a definite trust
and you have
gap.
to get over that before you.
So Muslims or Arabs are not trusted in this society, and I represent all of that.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Do you when you read the stories of Paul, do you relate to him because of that? Like his conversion, and then they're like, can we trust this guy? And
yeah.
I don't, do you connect with that, or is it?
I mean, I don't think I've ever connected. I mean, Paul had it rough because, I mean, he was in crowds that had a right to be extremely hostile towards him because he was instrumental in breaking up their family and arresting people. You know, I at least didn't have that.
Yeah, sure,
Right.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
good.
I haven't done anything to your family.
Yeah.
So I think I have it better than he did.
That's good.
Okay,
point.
changing directions a little bit and going back in your story.
Yeah.
The supernatural that happened.
Yeah.
How have you seen that played out in your church? And have you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I mean, we've seen. I mean, just different nationalities coming to faith. I mean, people getting coming to faith in the parking lot, to just random places, to people coming to faith in different languages. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, there's so many different stories, you know. One cool story was we were having like a newcomers. It was like a Sunday night, like dinner, you know, it was like part of a track, you know, churches have. So we had one, and this guy shows up, and he is a Chinese guy, does not speak a lot of English at all, and just walked up to the church, and he just found out that there was a church here, and he was here for an assignment from China for about 3 months or so, and he just looked up churches, not a Christian.
Wow.
And found a church, did not know there was a service. There wasn't a service. We just happened to have a dinner going on.
Right.
So he comes up, joins the newcomers, and we go around the room introducing people, and he's not even
How did I end up here?
Yeah, he was like, I just walked here to look at the church building. I thought maybe there was a service. I don't, you know, all that. And he's like, I'm Buddhist, but yeah. And one of our guys just feels called to like just go and hang, you know, sit with him, eat with him, and all that. And yeah, man, a month later, you know, just supernatural. I mean, we ended up baptizing him. He couldn't tell anybody he became a Christian. And it happened like, you know, like, again, it was also a really great because it was like this guy who came to faith as an adult, German background, had a heart for this Chinese guy, and one service, like after service or something like that, or in between services or something, he went up to him or he walked out of the service, like the Chinese guy was like, what I don't understand what I'm feeling here. Like, what is happening to me?
You're like, that's Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so he came to faith on that, like, he prayed with him, and the guy actually helped baptize him, you know, so cool stories like that. I'm like,
so cool.
no idea why, you know, so.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Well, we are excited again that you're going to be after this in a few hours ish, preaching. But the story you told and a lot more stories are in this book, Ex-Muslim, and I guess you can get this anywhere.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It just came out on Audible as well.
Awesome.
So
I love Audible.
I know. I read Audible. That's what I do.
Yeah.
But so it came out, and or you can find it anywhere books are sold, Amazon.
Yeah.
local place.
Yeah, so
and actually it's in the library too.
Okay,
apparently.
I love it. In the library,
What's a library?
I know.
Just teasing.
We love library. What was your hope in writing this? Like, what do you hope someone who reads this?
Yeah, so full disclosure, I did not want the title to be ex-Muslim. But the publisher really wanted something that was very clear.
Yeah.
And I was like, because a lot of Muslims have read this, and it's very hard to give this book to them because the title is jarring.
Yes,
sure. And so I had to write a note in there that ex-Muslim does not mean anti-Muslim.
Yeah,
it's two different things. I was, and now I'm at, and so and so the book is just storytelling. So it's written not like a novel, but it's a lot of stories. So I to tell people, like, if you just want to have stories of just miraculous things. So the story of how I came to faith is just nothing compared to all the other stories in there. Like with my siblings and with other people. And then there's a lot of I get into spiritual warfare because I was kind of thrown into it. So there's a lot of demon stories in there as well. And then breakdown of Islam versus Hinduism, because my best friend growing up was Hindu, is still Hindu, and just understanding religion, and understanding what it means to be what it means to really convey the gospel in a very global.
That's good.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate this conversation because even within the Institute, God has really pressed us in not just developing leaders for the church here in the States, but truly men and women who would go to the nations.
Yeah.
And it's at the heart of what we're doing at the Institute. And so I'm excited to be able to read this. So Naeem, I really appreciate just the you being able to do this, especially with the tight schedule and all that's going on. And so thanks. I just want to honor you for giving up that time to do this. And I hope that this conversation really blesses someone, encourages someone, maybe even speaks to them in a very personal and unique way. So thanks for being on with us today.
Of course.